Hello and welcome to our program, Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the situation of the suffering church around the world. Today we're going to be considering the state of Nagaland, one of the so-called seven sister states in the northeast of India. Nagaland has China to the north and Burma to the east, and is one of the very few states in India where Christians number over 90% of the population. To tell us more about the story of Catholics living in Nagaland, it is my very great privilege to welcome His Excellency Bishop James Thoppil, the Bishop of the Kohima Diocese in Nagaland. Your Excellency, thank you for being with us here today in our program.
It's my pleasure. I'm very happy.
Your Excellency, you are from Kottayam, Kerala, and you made your way very far north to the northeast of India.
Right.
To Nagaland, a land of tribes, of headhunters. What was your first experience when you met them? What was your first reaction when you met these Naga people?
To be frank, when I went in, I did not have clear idea about where I am going. Well, the first night experience was something very interesting in the sense we were about 130 students together studying in a study hall together, evening. Being a rainy season, that day there was little drizzle and then a lot of white ants comes out of the ground. And they just being, again summer, therefore the windows were open, they just came into the study hall. They were all over the study hall. And we from south were just trying to get them away. But I noticed that students from northeast, from Assam, from Nagaland, Manipur, they were putting their hand and then just holding the flies. So I was a little curious to find out what they were doing, and then I saw them, they kept under the desk and then take out the wings and then put the whole thing in their mouth. Well,
it was a shock.
It was a shock. It almost frightened me. I said, what am I going to do with these people? Well, that was the beginning, but then I used to get, later on I got used to eating the same thing. And
you ate the flies, you ate the flying ants as well?
Sometime, yes.
And what do they taste like?
Oh, they're like crunchy, a little crunchy and little acidity is there. But if you fry them together and then what you call it, looks like an omelette.
You can make it with eggs, make an omelette.
Excellent omelette. So very, very tasty.
I suppose you've had quite a few of those kind of cultural experiences where you've had to adapt, to the local situation.
Yes. Then second thing was when I saw them, killing dogs and then bringing to the table, which again was not used in our culture.
No. I
said try not eat, but later on I started eating the dog. In the same way all the animals, because I know Nagaland they eat everything. Everything their whole life, worms, silkworms and all the things.
How did they receive you? You're a missionary, now you're a Bishop of Kohima. What was your first reception or what was their first experience of you?
Well, as a priest and as a person, they were very, very welcoming. But when I was made a nominated bishop, I got a little anxiety. But within a year, I can tell you, they are very, very hospitable. They have received me very well. And I think they are very, very happy.
The Naga people are, of course, a tribal. They call the area the Seven Sisters for the different states that are there. What would be some of the customs? What would be some of the traditions of the Naga people?
Well, see, Naga people, when I speak about Naga people, it's people who are living in the state of Nagaland. And there are 16 major tribes. Each of these tribes have their own dialects, their own language, their own customs, their own dress, and they lived one from the other olden times. Now, of course, there's a lot of intermingling and there's a demand for a Naga state. But earlier days, they were totally cut off from each other. They used to be at war with each other, especially for land, But now those things have given up, especially after becoming Christians. Well, with regard to northeast, each of these Nagas or the states of 7 states have got their own customs, because they are all different tribes.
And some of these customs, if I understand correctly, are even more important than the laws of the government, the laws of the land, in terms of where they put their allegiance.
Well, you see, again, these tribal people were democratic by very nature. They had the chieftain, they had the village council, they had their own way of settling their own disputes, etc. Now, the new system of administrative system of the government, or what you call British system, came in much later, and therefore, still they have not integrated for totally to the British governmental administrative system to their local, what you call traditional system. Even today, when there is a case, say, of stealing, they would prefer to settle it among themselves in the village than go into a administrative setup. Or even they have a problem between two tribes, they would like to settle among the tribe by themselves rather than calling into a court and then police and then go into that formal way of administrative way of doing justice in our normal way.
Up until the 1950s, the Nagas were headhunters. Do you still see this or feel this culture still today, or is it something that has completely diminished out of the Naga culture?
Well, I mean, by becoming Christians, they are given up their headhunting habits, their old system of vengeance, etc. No doubt about it. But still, when they come between tribal issues, they come very violent. They go back to their traditional way of settling their disputes. And as late as 1980s, there were a problem between two tribes, and it seems they have gone for headhunting. They took each other's head and then celebrated over it, though it was not fully recorded in the history, but this sort of happened actually. When they go into tribal issues, they like to go back to their old ways.
Traditional customs.
Traditional customs. I think Christianity has not much influence in order to come out of that. I think that is an area where Christianity need to do much more.
In particularly this question of Christianity and the role of Christianity, the tribals, the Naga people, were also pagan. It was a pagan culture, and many of these customs, these superstitions, have still carried on today. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of what would we be talking about when we talk about pagan traditions or pagan cultures which are still going on today?
No, exactly. I don't say pagan customs be carried on now, except for celebrations. When they have their tribal festivities, they come to celebrate in the pagan way of having their days of prohibition, people not going out of the village, etc. And they celebrate 7 or 3 days of rejoicing, merrymaking, etc. But that old custom of what they call paying tribute to the ancestors, worshipping the ancestors, all they have given up. So Christianity has totally changed such kind of pagan practices.
But at the same time, there are values and virtues within the Naga culture that the church is trying to encourage, that the church is trying to keep precisely to support the culture. Can you give us some examples of that?
Very much. In fact, see, when the Baptist church came, they considered everything of the local as something devilish, something foreign, which should be done away with. And therefore, they did away with all that is local, they call customs. The coming of the Catholic Church has helped in a way to revive. And the church said, no, all the cultural things are good, and therefore try to integrate in the liturgy. For example, today when there is a entrance procession, we have cultural dance. Or the offertory, there is a cultural dance bringing the offertory along. Or in the churches, they stand in the traditional dress. So they the Catholic Church especially, try to integrate the whole tribal custom into the liturgy. And I think they are very happy with that. In fact, in that way, Catholic Church is much more appreciated for preserving and maintaining their culture rather than the Baptist Church who have come earlier. Of course, we must also appreciate Baptist Church because they are the one who gave.
They were the first ones to evangelize.
Plus they gave a script to each of these languages. They were able to translate Bible into their what they call the local script, local language, giving an English script. And therefore, they done a marvelous work of literary preservation of the literary Nagaland.
Your Excellency, we're going to take a break, and we're going to watch now a short report on the story of Catholics in Nagaland.
The morning rises over Nagaland, one of the smallest and least developed states of the so-called Seven Sisters, the relatively unexplored and isolated territories that comprise this northeastern corner of India. Stretching from Tibet in the north to Myanmar in the south, the region is characterized by fertile plains, Himalayan foothills and deep gorges. Nagaland is a pearl amongst the sister states, often called the Switzerland of the East. For the Naga, it is not statehood, but ethnic tribe that defines identity. Each tribe has its own custom, language and oral traditions, handed down from generation to generation.
Nagas are happy people. They are contented in life. They are happy with what they have. Even if they have just 2 pairs of clothes, they are happy, they are able to smile. They are very receptive, and they are very affectionate, and they are very warm people.
Nagas of Indo-Mongoloid stock are known for their courage, warrior skills and headhunting traditions. Tribes believe that the soul of a man rests in the nape of his neck. Only through decapitation can the soul be freed. The heroism of a warrior was measured through the number of heads hung over the entrance. Both enemies and ancestors were displayed to attract prosperity and fertility. The British, during colonial rule, by force and diplomacy, provided political stability between the warring factions, but it was the work of Christian missionaries arriving only in 1947 that transformed the region. Nagaland is today considered the most Baptist corner of the world. 85% of the population of 2 million is Baptist, with the remaining 15% Catholic and animist.
Mercy is falling, is falling, is falling. Mercy is fall like a sweet spring rain. Mercy is falling over me. Hey-ho, I will receive your mercy. Hey-ho, I will receive your grace. Hey-ho, I will done forevermore.
You know, the Baptist church came here first, 130 years ago, and they did a good job. They evangelized all the villages. There are no villages which had not been touched by the Baptist missionaries. They translated the Bible into the local languages, and then when the Catholics came, naturally, they received us for education. They wanted good education. They have seen our good education institutions in other parts of India, and so they invited us. And even now I get invitations, please come and start a school.
High in the Naga hills, close to the Burmese border, this village elder dreams that his grandchildren might see a better future than he did. In earlier years, he passed on through oral tradition the tribal customs and morality. Today, he now understands that Catholic schools can offer the best education to his grandchildren, and that these Catholic schools also welcome children from every social stratum. This Catholic school of some 2,000 pupils is also open to Hindus and Muslims. For the nuns, they are simply children, undivided by race or religion, and often the poorest of the poor. Although classes sometimes number 90 students, each year the sisters, reluctantly turn away between 100 to 200 children. This school also shelters young women from a particularly grim fate. Many girls unable to access the education system are often driven to enter brothels, too often. One response from the church for those children outside the educational system is through the work of religious sisters, offering practical courses to young women such as secretarial skills and dressmaking. The work of the sisters is not always easy, especially confronting the poverty in the villages.
The poverty, I should say, is not absence, but lack of basic necessities for a decent living. And as we go around, we see many of them have a house, but the inside infrastructures are very poor. For example, if we go to the kitchen, they have only utensils only to cook, and they have just a number, plates, cups and so on for their families. They don't have any surplus in the kitchen. Even regarding food, only what they produce is what they have. They live for daily living. Among them, we don't have any saving schemes, saving ideas, saving in terms of finance, savings in terms of anything. It's not there in the culture. Since we are based in the rural areas, we organize women, we organize them into self-help groups, and we call it as micro-credit union groups. They come together with their particular savings, and the savings is pulled together so that it's given out for a loan as a credit to other members.
Microloans work on the principle that a villager may borrow up to 3 times their savings. For example, for 500 rupees saved, a villager can receive 1,500 rupees. With that, they can buy a chicken and the seeds to feed it. After some time, the money earned from selling the eggs and chicks is enough to repay the loan and buy more chickens.
From the loan, we have saved the life of many. A number of women are able to send their children to school. We are enabled to bring all the women together, and we're able to teach values in life, religious faith, the role of women in the church and the society. They are able to educate their own children. That is one thing we are very much proud of.
The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. For the joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord.
The first Catholic parish in Nagaland was dedicated in 1948. Philip Sousaki has dedicated his life to teaching the gospel among the tribes for over 50 years. The first catechist in Nagaland.
I saw from the beginning only one father, at that time. And now these fathers, nearly 140 fathers are working here in Nagaland. And we have got one bishop. And the sisters, nearly 250 are working here in our. This is my greatest joy.
Today, the Nagaland Catholic Church is a community of almost 400 priests and nuns with over 54,000 faithful in 35 parishes, 1 health centre and over 40 schools. The number of Catholics is growing, demanding new parishes, better training and more schools and chapels.
May the children grow up without sickness, without anxiety and worry. Lord, bless every member of this community here, so also the other people of this village, that they all come to know you more and more and bear witness to your love.
With the growth of the Catholic community, Nagaland is also becoming ever more self-reliant. With more than 19 native priests, there is also an increasing number of seminarians. These young men, some descending from tribes which were pagan up until only recently, now offer their life to serving the Catholic priesthood, the foundations of the future church in Nagaland.
That means that which is given in the Upanishads.
The church is working not only to strengthen the faith, but also to encourage the faithful in an area historically weighed by intertribal unrest, to encourage peace among the communities.
I want that our Catholics make a difference in the society. And it's already being felt that our Catholics make a difference in their behavior, in their relationship, in their duty, responsibility. That I am very proud of.
The Nagaland Church, though exuding life and enthusiasm, is young and lacks the financial means to respond to the structural demands of this growing community. The faithful offer what they can, particularly their time and hard work.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our program Where God Weeps. It's my privilege to be here again with Bishop James Thoppil, the Bishop of the Kohima Diocese in Nagaland. Your Excellency, thank you for being with us here again on our program. Your Excellency, a challenge of today, if you will, is globalization and particularly secularization that is being introduced through media, through internet, through... What challenge is this for the young people, and how can the Church start to respond to this aggressive secularization which is so prevalent?
This is the greatest danger of Nagaland. Today they have become victims of so-called aggressive secularization, consumerism. Because I do believe again, because they jumped from a very primitive way of life to a very ultra-modern way of life. And this transition has caused them a lot of change. And I should say they have lost the traditional values in this process. Because traditionally there were people who are very sharing, caring, communitarian. Now this ultra secularization and consumerism have brought them very individualistic, selfish, no more sharing, caring for the other. You know, I remember they telling a story of how the society used to become communitarian, without distinction, because they told me earlier days they used to people who give a feast to the whole village were given a special distinction of a shawl to wear. It's a sign that they have given a feast to the whole village. But to give a village a feast means all his saving is spent on that. He becomes equal with anybody else. So when he gives a feast, he has got distinction having given the feast, that is true. At the same time, he becomes equal with anybody else. So that way of maintaining the equality was maintained. But today, no. Today, the people who are in the government or people who have got possibilities, they acquire property even at the cost of others.
Material goods.
Material goods. Even the property, what you call land, they go and buy the whole village land, give them at a pittance, a low price, and then make it individual. You can see it very well, the distinction between the rich and the poor.
And that gap is growing.
Growing much more, growing bigger and bigger.
So in fact, the next challenge for the Church will be poverty and, or rather destitution.
Destitution between the two classes.
And also because if the community life is not there, the whole social structure starts to break down, where you have people on the streets who are no longer looked after by their family. They are simply abandoned.
In fact, this was another social problem, because earlier days there was no orphans, there was no destitute in the village. The community would take after. But today we see them so many orphans. And there are many orphanages being opened, because there is no more people taking care of the orphans or people without parents. Before it was community. Now they are left for themselves. And the church again come in to take care of them. In a way, we are alleviating, but in a way we are also changing the whole social system. We have in fact 2 orphanages, both are full.
Your Excellency, we've spoken a little bit about the work and the necessity of the church in Nagaland. What would your appeal be to those with us now on our program? What would be your greatest needs for more schools, of course for prayer? What would be your greatest appeal?
One of the greatest appeal we need for developing our infrastructure, because Nagaland, except Dimapur, which is little plain area, the whole thing is a mountainous terrain where communication, everything has to be transported by road. And therefore, building up anything is very, very expensive for us. Just to give you an example, a truck of sand in Dimapur will cost about 3,000 rupees. When it is same thing is carried to Shamatur, which is far away, one of the interior places, it cost us 40,000 rupees. So the developmental infrastructure development is the biggest challenge. And wherever we are, people expect us to have infrastructure development, especially schools. And a school implies presence of sisters, presence of priests, presence of a boarding, because to also bring them from interior villages to give them education. So for us, the challenge is definitely developing infrastructure development.
And with the growth of Christianity in the area, the need is enormous.
Enormous, and I think that will also make a difference in the society. That's what my conviction is. Catholic Church will make a difference in Naga society in the future.
Your Excellency, thank you for having been with us today on our program.
Thank you. I am privileged. It is my pleasure. Thank you, and God bless you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us today on Where God Weeps. And if you'd like to know more about the situation of Catholics in Nagaland, or perhaps how you might be able to help His Excellency Bishop Thoppil in Kohima with his projects of education and helping to bring the people out of poverty, I would encourage you to look at the contact information at the end of this program. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.